Hello everyone, my name is Catalyst, welcome back to the channel, I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to be doing some updated power rankings for all the specialists in Battlefield 2042. The last time we ranked all of them was all the way back in Season 1 6 months ago, so it's definitely time for a new list as there have been new additions and balancing changes. If by chance you are finding this video after the class rework has happened in Season 3, this video is now outdated and there will be a separate video with new rankings to account for the class changes. But as for today, even though I will give my best educated reasoning as to why these specialists are ranked in this order, you may feel differently, so I would love to hear your thoughts when all is said and done. Lastly, a lot of the video assumes that you know how these specialists work, so if you have any questions about specialists' primary and passive abilities or their playstyles, you should definitely watch my How to Not Suck series videos on the specialists you have questions about. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Here are the specialists in Battlefield 2042 ranked from worst to best after the Season 3 update. The more things change, the more they stay the same, ladies and gentlemen, and if you were really expecting somebody other than Dozer to be at the bottom of my list, then you must be new to the channel because ooh-wee, Dozer continues to be a stinker. Now, I know that Dozer still has his fans, and that's okay. Even the Houston Texans have fans, but that doesn't stop him from once again being the worst specialist in the game, in my opinion. The only time I ever really consider playing Dozer is when I have to make one of these videos and need footage, and you know, I always think to myself that maybe I haven't given him a fair chance, but I always get quickly reminded otherwise. Even with some of the more close quarters maps that are now in the game, Dozer can simply not get around the fact that the maps in the game are gigantic, and his shield turn speed is so slow that if he gets shot in his side, he cannot turn quickly enough to protect himself, and that's on top of the shield hitbox being a little spotty by itself. And what that does is if you want to actively use your shield, it relegates you to huddling in a corner or in tight spaces, and those really, with exception to the two new maps, are not plentiful in this game, and I personally do not like having to cater to an ability so hard that it relegates me to specific parts of the map just to have the best chance at success with it. As satisfying as shield bashes may be, that for me kills Dozer, and without his shield he simply becomes a foot soldier with more explosive damage reduction, which is okay, but there are better passives in the game. Coming in at number 12 is Boris, down a spot from the last rankings video. It's not that Boris got worse per se, it's just that more specialists were added that are better than he is, so naturally he got moved down a spot or two. I think now we are really seeing how badly Boris got nerfed into the ground when DICE nerfed his turret. To put it plainly, the turret is pretty bad now. The fire speed has been reduced, and of course the turret no longer spots through walls, which is really where Boris's strength used to be. And now playing Boris really comes down to setting down your turret and standing next to it to get any kind of value out of it, and then passively holding angles around the turret. He shares a lot of similarities with Dozer in the sense that if you're trying to get the most out of his ability, you are very restricted in where you can be on the map, and even more restricted once you place that turret down. And I think he gets the most value on defense and breakthrough because of this. You can pick up and place the turret as much as you want, and that does give you some more mobility. Overall, the turret is just underwhelming. It does still spot on the minimap and give you an audio cue when it does spot someone, but it's obviously nowhere near the strength that it used to be. For some players, Boris's playstyle will work fine for you. I just think that there are so many more specialists that are better choices in the game currently. At number 11, we have Liz. From the very beginning, I felt like Liz was a specialist that was designed to deal with the overwhelming vehicle spam that plagued Battlefield 2042 in the first 6 months of the game's lifecycle, back when hovercrafts, bolts, and other light vehicles were very strong on the battlefield, because she is very effective against those types of vehicles. But the problem is that the game is shifting to where most of the vehicles in the game are much more tanky and require more accurate shots to kill, which Liz only has 2 rockets before she goes on cooldown. The majority of vehicles now are Mavs, tanks, and as it pertains to air vehicles, Condors and Super Hinds. There are some maps and situations where you may find a Little Bird and some more transport vehicles, which again, Liz is strong against, but by herself against some of the beefier vehicles that you'll find mostly in Breakthrough, she is not going to do too much. And that's if you land your shots, which your rockets can be shot out of the sky, and they do have some shaky handling. By far the best thing about her kit is her passive, which highlights injured vehicles that are lower than 75% health, and that does enable her to be more of a finishing blow with her rocket type specialist, and that is the most optimal way to play her. But with that said, even all the way back in June, I felt like she was a specialist that really fluctuated in her strength based on how many players were playing her and if you were playing with friends. And I will be the first to admit that a pack of Hungry Liz rockets is strong and annoying, but for solo play, with how many other better options there are in the game today, Liz is a character that is getting played less and less, and therefore simply isn't as strong as she could be. At number 10, we have Casper. This might be the most misleading and fraudulent spot on this list because, contrary to where I have him being placed on the list, I think that Casper is one of the most quietly broken specialists in the entire game. The fact that you can launch a drone into the sky and proceed to mark the entire enemy team on a point of breakthrough is absolutely nuts and is almost game-breakingly strong when you think about it. And players tend to not look up to the sky much either, so you'll see players at the end of the game with 0 kills and 100 plus spot assists. So in that sense, having a recon drone Casper on your team is insanely strong. So why is he only ranked number 10? Because you only need one Casper to do that. Having any more players doing the exact same thing is just redundant, stupid, and a waste of time. And if I had to guess, there is anywhere between 1 to 5 Caspers per match per team. So what happens when you aren't the dedicated recon drone? The answer is not much, and that's why he's still on the lower end of the list. His recon drone's ability to EMP vehicles for a short period of time is also useful, but there are other specialists and other vehicles that do the same thing, and what is left is Casper's motion detection suit, which is useful for information, but overall is relatively mundane. It is more useful now that Paik's ability got nerfed, but in practice, I think the trait is to prevent people from sneaking up on you when you're sniping in the back of the map or something, and if you're not doing that, I would trust that most players would be able to know when there are enemies around them. I guess the point is that Casper has potential to be a game changer when he is being abused by somebody dedicated enough to have their FPS experience be sitting in a bush flying a drone, but apart from that, he doesn't offer enough to make him an elite specialist. Coming in at number 9 is Rao, who similarly to Boris is moving down a list because of the inclusion of the 2 new specialists. To vehicle players, I am sure that you absolutely despise Rao, and he is the strongest specialist in the game because holy moly is his hack ability annoying, and otherwise he would be number 1. But I said this last time, Rao really is a character that falls right in the middle in terms of how good he actually is. His value comes purely from how annoying he can be on the battlefield. Sometimes he feels very useful, and other times I just get rage farmed by the vehicles I'm trying to hack, and he really is the okay, the enemies have strong vehicle players, time to counter them type specialist. I'm sure there are a few Rao mains out there, but I really feel like Rao is not a character that you start with, but one that you switch to, and he does his job. Like, his ability is powerful, don't get me wrong, but as it pertains to the specialist overall, which is what this list is about, I don't think he is better than 8 other specialists in the game, and threat perception as a passive ability doesn't do enough to his kit to warrant playing him other than when your team is getting absolutely smacked by enemy vehicles. You could argue that his ability to counter vehicles like that makes him a strong specialist, but in that regard, similar to Casper, he is a one-trick pony and one that you don't really ride all that often. And at number 8, we have Angel. Oh, how the mighty Angel has fallen. DICE taking armor away from Angel's kit is one of the most impactful changes that the game has seen since launch, and he really has never recovered from that. Angel is now strictly all about ammo, but that does have some perks to it. I think that never running out of ammo with the ammo type that you want to use is nice, as opposed to having to switch ammo types and change your playstyle a little bit when you run out of bullets, and him being able to have all this ammo negates the need of an ammo box and allows Angel to use some other gadgets. The loadout drop is nice, but I do think that over time its usefulness has significantly decreased. I'm not sure why, maybe just because players have become more decisive about how they want to run their classes, and if they want to change something, they can do so from the plus system or the respawn screen. Angel is just incredibly niche now because, as I said during the last ranking video, ammo is the most useless it's ever been in Battlefield because you have 3 different weapon ammo types, so you rarely run out of ammo. So Angel's new place in the game is somebody you use when you like to use a weapon like the BSVM and don't want the inconvenience of running out of ammo. I think when the new class rework comes out in a few months, Angel will be greatly helped by it, but for now, he's just kind of mid. Coming in at number 7 is the new specialist Zane. We won't talk about him too in-depth here, as I just made a video breaking down his kit last week, so if you want a more in-depth breakdown, you can click the card in the top right hand corner or click the end screened prompt. To give you the short breakdown though, Zane is a specialist that I feel some people are really going to enjoy, and I think he has great potential. I just think that you have to cater too hard to his perseverance trait to get the most optimal results out of him. His arrow burst is good, but not great, and I think overall he fits right in the middle of the pack with how the game is balanced right now. Moving down a few spots from last time is Sundance. Similar to Angel, Sundance is a specialist that DICE really took the knife and scalpel to in Seasons 1 and 2. DICE have completely removed EMP grenades from their kit and have lowered the amount of grenades they had from 2 to 1. So now they either have one scatter grenade or one homing grenade, and that's it. They also tweaked the flight mechanics, if you recall, and that has made it to where the opportunities to use their wingsuit are mostly regulated to jumps of extreme height, to where before, if you knew where to jump from, you could pull off some really creative and difficult jumps. Can you tell I'm still a bit salty about DICE changing the flight mechanics? Anyways, even with the nerfs to their kit, Sundance still does have the best map traversal, which for Battlefield 2042 is extremely strong, and if there is one good thing to come out of the flight mechanic overhaul, it's that they became a lot more forgiving when it came to fall damage. With how prominent air transport vehicles are, it's very easy to spawn in them and then collide with the wingsuit on a flank and be really effective, and their grenades both can still be effective if played correctly. Still, as someone who played at the highest level with Sundance and put a lot of hours into learning their kit, I can confidently tell you that they are a shadow of their former selves. I can already tell that people disagree with this spot, but I have Crawford at number 5. I don't know what to tell you. I find Crawford to be a pretty good specialist, and quite frankly, if you know how to play him correctly, he has a lot of troll qualities to him, which I personally enjoy, such as hearing footsteps coming from the tunnel underneath Orbital and waiting for them to walk into a barrage of minigun fire. But in all seriousness, even when I'm not playing Crawford in a douchey way, those with good game sense will benefit the most from playing Crawford and find that he is a very well-rounded specialist and pretty well balanced as well. He can wipe out entire flanks with ease if the timing is right, and he can save you in a 1vx situation if you're able to bait players into walking into your line of fire. But you can't just set the turret up anywhere, as it's relatively easily to not only have the turret be destroyed, but also get sniped out of the little slot in the middle of the minigun. Also adding in the fact that Crawford has a fast revive makes him useful, and I think personally he has the better passive ammo regeneration ability than Angel. But with that said, I wouldn't consider him to be in the upper elite because he does require a lot of trial and error to learn. I don't think he's a particularly easy specialist to learn unless you plan on camping lanes with his minigun, so he sits here at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Paik, and man did her 15 minutes of fame come and go quickly. Paik got what was intended to be a minor buff at the beginning of Season 2 that turned out to be way too strong, and everyone began to use her to the point that she was nerfed hard just a week after Season 2 launched. Since the change was reverted and nerfed slightly, she has come back down to earth, but let's be honest, she is always going to be one of the better specialists in the game because she is quite literally a wall hack specialist, and any ability that lets you see through walls will be strong. Now, instead of getting a persistent spot when using her scanner, people will just flash behind walls, and that adds some outplay ability against her to where if you recognize that you've been spotted by a Paik, you can fake them out a little bit. But truth be told, if you're a fairly competent Paik player, you can still be very successful with her ability just in smaller patches, and with the introduction of classic 3D spotting coming back into the game, her passive also got a bit stronger as well, which allows her to spot enemies she injures for the entire team. I think overall you could argue that she is still a top 3 specialist, but someone else leapfrogged her in my opinion, and we'll get to them in a few moments. Taking the bronze medal on our list today, we have Falk. Now, I had her at number 2 in the last rankings, and since then nothing has changed about her kit, and really she has only slid down the rankings because, again, like Paik, she got leapfrogged. With that said, the amount of healing that Falk can put out is insane. The Surette pistol is so good if you use it to its full potential, and even though this will be changing with the class rework, the fact that I can run C5 or a rocket launcher and not have to worry about having a medpack weapon because Falk basically already has one, it's really nice. I talk about this a lot on the channel, but one of my biggest critiques of the game's meta is that I feel like I'm forced to run either anti-vehicle or healing gadgets, and with Falk, you get to run them both. And the meta is still pretty favorable for her as well, with AR still being the stronger weapon set at the moment in the game. You can really be effective in both sitting further back, especially in breakthrough, spamming the Surette pistol, and still being aggressive enough to drop kills when you need to with some of the longer to mid-range weapons at hand. I truly only have good things to say about Falk, and I think she is a great choice for new players, seeing that you unlock her almost immediately. Moving up all the way from number 5 on the last list to take this silver spot in our podium of best specialist, we have Irish. Irish has continued to get better and better throughout the life cycle of the game after being a bit of a disappointment early on. Now, Irish is the only character in the game that comes with armor when you spawn in and can replenish armor from dead enemies. And make no mistake about it, that saves him more than you think it does in gunfights. Additionally, the Sentinel system continues to be more and more useful with characters like Zane entering the game, and with the last few maps being more infantry focused, you can see how much the Sentinel system does to negate nade spam if placed in the right locations. And that's the best thing about his kit. The shield and Sentinel system are largely set it and forget it type specialist abilities. There is genuinely not a bad place that you can use either ability and still do well, but if you place them in the right spots, they can be absolutely game changing. You can block stairways with the shield and stop entire pushes with some carefully placed sentinels. It just became harder and harder to not recognize how much of an impact a few good Irishes can have on the game, especially in Breakthrough, which I would imagine is the most popular game mode. I don't think many people will disagree with him being placed so high here. And last but not least, the best specialist in the game still is none other than McKay, and it's still not close. I know, you're tired of him being the best, and honestly, I am too. I would love for a more diverse meta, and hopefully the class rework changes that, but for now, McKay is still the king of the castle. The grapple hook is such a unique and useful tool to navigate the battlefield and outplay your opponents. Stuck behind a rock getting pinned down? Well, why don't you just grapple onto the back of the speeding Jeep that just drove past you and you'll probably live. The grapple hook offers you multiple possibilities for instant height advantage, multiple possibilities for instant getaways, and allows you to whip around on flanks. It's simply the most versatile and useful ability in the game, and that's without talking about his strafe speed passive. In a game where the movement can be clunky at times, McKay's passive strafe speed not only makes gunfights feel better, but makes you harder to hit and helps you win more of them. Sure, it's a selfish specialist if you want to think of it that way, but in terms of what his abilities bring to the table, there is not a better specialist in Battlefield 2042. That's the end of the list, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your own rankings in the comments below. Who do you think is the best specialist in the game? Who do you think is the worst? If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like the video. And if you enjoyed it just that much, consider subscribing. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.